We are 3 seasons into Netflix's fantasy epic series, The Dragon Prince, and although we have no guarantee that Netflix will renew the series for a 4th season, we do know that if Netflix does renew the show for that 4th season, it is going to be significantly different from the seasons that have come before it. Now, that doesn't mean Callum will suddenly die, or that Aaravos will suddenly stop threatening to escape from the prison that has kept him captive for centuries. The core conflicts will remain the same, and the core relationships will not break apart all of a sudden. But the end of Season 3 was a culmination of sorts. Finally, elves and humans worked together against a common enemy. Finally, Claudia fully committed to the dark side. Finally, Soren managed to transcend his abuse and join Team Callum. He managed to redeem himself and prove that, despite not being particularly intelligent, he has a moral compass and a desire to do what is right. Finally, Callum and Rayla admitted their feelings for each other, overcoming all their insecurity and awkwardness. These pieces have all been arranged in fascinating patterns. It will be fascinating to witness where the show goes from here. Especially considering one thing I am absolutely sure of. Season 4 will be the darkest season of this show thus far. I guarantee you that is not an empty claim. We reached a high point at the end of Season 3. All is reasonably safe. Viren died, and although he was resurrected by Claudia, he appears to be nothing but a shell of his former self. There does not seem to be much room for things to get better, but there is a lot of room for things to get worse. Much worse. According to showrunner Aaravos, there will be 3 major segments of The Dragon Prince. The first runs from Season 1 to Season 3. The second, which is what we're heading into, will run from Season 4 to Season 5. And the third and final section will cover the last 2 seasons. This all breaks down to a fairly familiar 3-part narrative structure. Think about something like the original Star Wars trilogy, where at the end of movie 1, the good guys win. At the end of movie 2, they are temporarily handed a major defeat, and in the 3rd movie they come back and win. This is also how Avatar: The Last Airbender was structured, and it is a fairly common way to structure trilogies. Now, dark does not necessarily mean good, but darker storytelling gives a narrative the chance to challenge the assumptions an audience might have built up earlier, back in the show's lighter and more innocent days. It really complicates the ideas set forth in the first 3 seasons. So where will the show go with that? What questions will it decide to answer? Is dark magic really as bad as the show has made it out to be? What is humanity's history with it? When and how did the elves decide that it was so irredeemably evil that they had to banish the humans from Xadia? I'm not saying Season 4 has to definitively answer all of these questions. What I am saying is that these questions loom large over the Dragon Prince, and it would be smart to incorporate them into the storytelling. I want to see dark magic play more of an active role in the narrative. In the first episode of the 3rd season, and indeed in the first scene of that first episode, which intends to evoke sympathy, or at least empathy, with humans who use dark magic, questions are raised concerning whether dark magic is really as bad as the show has made it out to be, and whether dragons are really as innocent as the show has made them out to be. Season 3 of The Dragon Prince, as brilliant as it is, does not answer these questions as effectively as it could. Season 4 likely will. The move toward darkness in Seasons 4 and 5 will also likely be a move toward moral ambiguity. I want to see the struggle concerning dark magic analyzed with more complexity and nuance. If there is any character I want to see introduced, it is a character who uses dark magic, but is not viewed negatively by the show. When Callum used dark magic in Season 2, he was criticized sharply by Rayla, as one could reasonably expect, considering the elven opinion on dark magic. But the show seemed to almost completely agree with Rayla. What I would find fascinating is if it didn't. What if Rayla criticizes a character for using dark magic, but the show is not completely on her side? Now, that does not mean I want to see the show do a complete 180 on how it treats dark magic. I don't want to see it suddenly celebrate dark magic. That would really be dissonant with everything that came before. But I would love it if the show made us question, at least temporarily, if Rayla's anti-dark magic stance is maybe a little too extreme. Now, you could say the show doesn't need to create an additional character, that it could just rely on Claudia to fill that role. That's true, but I don't think the show is going in that direction with her character. Instead, she's going down a much darker and more destructive path. The darkness of Season 4 is going to be most apparent in Claudia's character arc. So far, she has not done anything indefensibly evil, at least to me, and you can understand where she's coming from. You can understand why she makes the decisions she makes, even if you disagree with them. That's the sign of a well-written character. She started off as this mischievous and not entirely trustworthy teenager who is nonetheless endearing and compassionate. She was sweet and entertaining. There was never a dull moment with her, and there was no doubt that she had a big heart. Sure, she had a bizarrely cavalier attitude toward dark magic, and it was apparent that she was not entirely willing to examine the consequences of her actions, but these were things that were easy to overlook. They did not necessarily mean that she would become a villain. They were reasonable character flaws. But as the show progressed, she kept making choices that showcased the darkness inside of her. The first of these choices did not ostensibly seem like much of an indicator. It came at the end of Season 2, when Claudia healed Soren after Soren was paralyzed. Now, obviously Soren was far from ecstatic at being paralyzed, but part of him was glad to be free from the person he was supposed to be, the alpha jock who was a strong warrior and followed his father's directions. He could be someone else. He could be a poet, even. While the idea of Soren becoming a poet might be ridiculous considering how dense he is, the idea of Soren displaying any real level of interiority whatsoever would have been surprising before this episode. It's a bit of a joke, but it's also serious. Soren is open to changing, while Claudia remains committed to the path she is on, even if that path requires great sacrifice. She kills a deer in order to heal Soren and restore him to the person he had been. There's something beautiful about this. Sacrifice is something we normally celebrate in media, the putting of others before ourselves. However, the Dragon Prince does such a great job at imbuing this scene with a dark undercurrent, not just as another example to demonstrate how bad dark magic is, but as an example to demonstrate key elements of Claudia's personality. One could question how self-sacrificing she is really being. While I don't doubt she cares about Soren, she cares at least as much about preserving an order that allows her to retain her current worldview. It's an order that allows her to be on top and kind of look down at everyone else. This is why she chooses Viren over Soren when she has that choice in Season 3. Not only that, but she seems genuinely shocked at the end of Season 3 when Soren chooses his morals over his father, being willing to kill his father in order to protect King Ezrin. At the end of Season 3, her side has been defeated. The only reason her father is still alive is that she sacrificed men in order to revive him. In Season 4, this will increasingly push her into desperate situations. She will be brought to a point where she will either have to change significantly, as Soren did, or commit increasingly indefensible actions in order to maintain the order that benefits her. Considering how resistant she has been to change throughout the series, it only stands to reason that she would choose the latter option, marking her further descent into darkness. That descent will likely be a major reason why Season 4 will be as dark as it will be. However, she is far from the only component to that Season 4 darkness. Aaravos' plan is progressing nicely. That said, if he does become the dominant obstacle the protagonists face, I doubt it will be until late Season 5 or early Season 6. While Viren might be the character who most resembles Avatar: The Last Airbender's Ozai in terms of being a tyrannical father who has a son he hates and a daughter he loves, the character who most resembles Ozai in terms of how the show builds him up is Aaravos. Though the threat of Aaravos looms large over the series, what makes Aaravos most interesting at this point is the suspense. Simply having the characters fight him for the last 3 or 4 seasons of the show would dilute that power. However, keeping him in the shadows and obscuring key facets of his identity and his power until later in the series would preserve that suspense. Now, this does not mean we won't see more of everyone's favorite manipulative star touch elf. In fact, Season 4 will likely be a major win for him. But he will likely not be the direct antagonist. Rather, that role will likely be filled by Claudia. What does this mean for Callum? He may not be as close to Claudia as he once was, considering that he is now romantically involved with Rayla, but she is still someone very important to him. Likely, she will try to tempt him. This does not mean she will necessarily try to convince him to use dark magic, although that is certainly a possibility. It could just mean that she'll try to convince him to side with her. Maybe she will spread negative rumors about Rayla, trying to sow doubt in his mind. I don't know if this will work, but it would be interesting if the relationship between Callum and Rayla, which is so strong at the end of Season 3, somehow became more tenuous. The good times they enjoyed will probably not last forever. What if they argue about Claudia and how to deal with her, and as such they have a falling out? Whatever happens, I doubt Callum's path will be as straightforward as it was last season. As much as I love Callum and the challenges he confronted in Season 3, he did not necessarily learn or grow as a character during that season. Considering The Dragon Prince is a coming-of-age story at its core, this will likely change in Season 4 and beyond. In Season 3, he had a clear objective: deliver Ozymandias, the titular Dragon Prince, to his mother in Xadia. And he did it. Mission complete. And he defeated Viren and Viren's evil forces. Great job. It's the perfect way to close up the series if Netflix cancels it. But if we do get a Season 4, and I believe we will, these resolutions might become unresolved. Callum might be plunged into challenges he never thought he would face. Challenges that genuinely shake him to the core and cause him to question his identity and leave him with no clear options going forward. And he will have to try to deal with that. Season 3 finished the first of the show's planned 3 acts. Season 4 starts its second act. It will plunge us back into the world, and we will find it a little less sunshiny than it was when we last saw it. Of course, I could be wrong, and Season 4 could be all rainbows and butterflies. But don't be surprised if morality looks a little less simple this time. So thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. It is a fantastic show. So beautiful, so fascinating, so morally nuanced, and only getting more so as it goes along. I truly believe that as much as I love Season 3, Season 4 will top it. It will really cause us to examine what this world even is, and it will really bring the moral nuances of the show to the forefront. Tune in soon for the next analysis. It'll be coming soon-ish. Here's hoping. Thank y'all again. Adios, comrades.